Welcome to Backstage Pass, your all-access pass to everything Wake Up. We are going to continue talking to Maria Whalen, and as you already know, Maria is the ultimate health warrior. And in a world where many are known as by saying, do as I say, not as I do, Maria is actually a perfect role model for everything that she teaches. She actually lives what she teaches, and we're going to continue talking about that. And I want to start with actually your amazing story. You had just kind of started to tell us about it, and we didn't have too much time during the segment. But I want to dig a little bit deeper with you, Maria, on that. Can you tell us more about your story, how you got started, why this is such a passionate thing for you?
Absolutely, yeah. It's my story is threefold. So I'll kind of tell you where I came from, why I got to where I am, and why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. So I really had, at a young age, kind of always been the one who got sick easily, and I had been told lots of things at that time, but nothing was real major. I had just always heard we should remove this body part, or you have this illness, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of a more of a frustrating thing than it was like major illness as a child. As I got a little bit older, I actually was a competitive boxer, and so for me, I had on the physical side, I was very fit on the outside. So people, the illusion of health, right? They thought I was healthy. I did all the right things. And then, I'd go home. I was in a lot of pain, that kind of stuff. But I knew at the time, I wasn't as healthy as I needed to be. So it just progressively added to it. Then I got married very young, and we made a big move from my hometown to another state. And during that time is when, I really saw my health just rapidly decline. And at that point, for about 8 years, I went to, every practitioner, every specialist, every doctor around the world. I was going here, going there. And if you've ever been through that process, it's extremely exhausting. Mm-hmm. And, I'd gotten every title. I swear it's kind of a joke with all my clients now. They'll come in and I'll remember like, oh yeah, I had that too. Oh yeah, I had that too. There were so many. I mean, I really had just a stack this high of diagnoses,
Wow.
And they at that time were considered the minor ones. Then I started getting the major ones. So, when you get sick, as you know, it rapidly declines, the year over year over year. So then I had a rare autoimmune disease I had been diagnosed with, and one of them was actually nerve tumors, and I was supposed to have them all over my spine, supposed to be very debilitating. And so that just kind of, I think, set it in motion even more. So I was so, exhausted from trying everything, going everywhere, all the medications, all the procedures, the whole process. I just really got to a point where I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore, and it was exhausting, and I had been married for about 10 years at that point. And my doctor, I always had to kind of come back to home base with him. Okay, so what did we find? What did we come together? And so he was always kind of the one who had to give me the bad news, And at one point, I had gotten called back in for some test results that had come back. And I walked into the door, and, at this point, I literally was in comas every other week. So I had another rare autoimmune disease. And if you can even imagine going into a coma every other week of your life.
Can't.
Yeah.
I can't. Wow.
It just, yeah, incredible. I really was at a place where I honestly was like, well, I don't really know the point of living at this point.
How long were the comas?
It was different every time. I never knew. So I did that for actually several years. And at that point, I got so sick of the typical process, emergency room, MRIs, the whole thing. I was just so at that point where it was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. So I kind of got to a point where I told my friends and family and, my husband, like, please just let me be. Like, if I come out of it, great. If I don't, fine. But I don't want to go through that anymore. I don't want to be poked, prodded, and tested on anymore, But, really for me, I had just kind of lost the will to live. I just really was like, the only thing that really kept me alive is my passion since I was 10 years old was to have children. And I really wanted to be a mom. So that was just all I cared about. And so the crux of everything was the one day that my doctor, said, you need to come in for some test results I need to talk to you about. And there was just something different in his voice this time. And I walked in and I said, Doc, there's nothing you could possibly tell me. There is no diagnosis that at this point could mean anything to me. I'm like, I don't care what it is, cancer, anything, like, with what I've dealt with, like, please, I don't care. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Because I could tell he was really not wanting to talk to me. And so he put his hand on my arm, and he's never done that before. And so I kind of did this, like, what is he up to, right? And so he said, he's like, this is a different kind of diagnosis. He goes, you probably will never be able to have children. Oh. And so for me, my whole world was just wrecked and shattered. So I left there in quite a daze. I actually, long story short, I went home. I grabbed enough cash to go check myself into a hotel, and I was planning to take my life. And I paid 6 days in advance. I didn't want to be found. I wanted to make sure, I didn't end up back in a hospital again. So as I went there, did everything, I decided to kind of start saying goodbye to my family and the world. And I started like picturing their faces. And as I saw my parents tell my sister, and I saw my sister just like kind of fall, I imagined her response, and I saw her just start crying and, just falling apart. And then I started, feeling that, and I started feeling the emotions of that. And then I saw my sister tell my nieces. And when my sister told my nieces, I started weeping, and it actually sent me into a coma. So wow. The next morning, I woke up, and my first question as I looked around, I was like, I hope this isn't what heaven looks like, because it looks like a hotel room. And so after I realized, okay, I'm here, and wow, I got to deal with this now. That fighter in me that, was there, it flooded my body like crazy. And wonderful. I said, you know what? Not only am I going to kick this, but I'm going to help other people when I do. And that is where the mission started. But actually where it shifted was when I tried to figure it out naturally. And I spent 8 years trying to figure it out, over $80,000, because it was kind of the same rat race. It was the try everything, and I was so exhausted from that. And while it's better and I had more hope with it, it was great. It got there. But that was when I said somebody needs to create a solution for people that's all inclusive and that teaches you how to do it yourself, because I just wanted that independence. I didn't want to go to another person ever again for as long as I lived. Wow. So I ended up creating a system, and that's what hundreds, thousands of people have used now. And
it's creating miracles around the world.
Yeah.
How is your health today?
I haven't been sick in 10 years.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I have a 10-year-old now
that.
too. And so that was my I buck the system thing. So my little girl is my evidence, and she hasn't been sick in 10 years either. And she's 10 years old.
That is
so
amazing.
Absolutely.
So what is the secret to that health? What exactly, if for our viewers, if you would please share. I know your story is absolutely amazing, but there are tons of other people that have used your system, and they've been reporting incredible results.
Yeah,
absolutely. So what happens when somebody uses that?
Yeah, so I either have two kinds of people that come in. It's people who aren't totally sick but want full autonomy, because I teach people how to be their own dentist, how to set up their own pharmacy at home, but the biggest change of it is knowing how to work with this system. Nobody teaches people how to work with all the systems that are inside of this system. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
And everybody pulls it apart, and it's like our body doesn't work that way, so why are we operating that way with it and dressing it that way? So I have people, so I have people all across the board, any ailment you could imagine. I really believe anything your body creates, your body can heal.
Yes.
And so I have people who are really, really sick, some people who are just mildly sick, and they're like, I don't want this. And my passion is health freedom. So I'm really about like knowing how to get rid of anything now, but how to be totally indestructible and know with absolute assurance you're never going to get a diagnosis in the future and not need either of those systems. So that's my passion. That's what I teach people. So I designed it. So it's not just wishful thinking. It's not just an information product, that's what I did many years. It's an actual tangible 12, I take people for 3 months and walk them through every part of your body from head to toe, lifestyle, of course, food, all those pieces, like I said, how to set up your own pharmacy, but how to do things in the right order, in the right timing and with the right tools. Most people don't know the most powerful tools in the world, right? Like I'm absolutely indestructible and I don't fear anything. And I don't fear it with my daughter either. But it's because I know the tools and I know how to work with this. Yeah. So, I really teach people, and I say, when I'm done with you, you're done with me. I don't want you dependent on me.
That is amazing.
That's freedom.
So awesome. Yeah, that is freedom. Now, tell us about health freedom. You mentioned that a little while earlier. Do we have that in today's world? How many of us have that?
Yeah, well, I think evidence by, what we see in statistics right now proves that we don't. But honestly, right now, there is no more important time in all of history right now that not only do you need to be healthy, but you need to be independent from both systems. Like really, really, because our freedoms are being taken away very covertly, very rapidly, that kind of stuff. And there's something nobody can take away from you, and that's your health.
Absolutely.
So it's,
and it's imperative.
Yeah, it's everything.
It is everything.
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and, big names in that industry. And I'm like, I don't want to be the last entrepreneur standing. Like we need to create a movement of people really getting to that place of self-sufficiency.
Yes, I totally agree. And thank you so much for sharing all of that. And of course, your story so openly and with such a huge heart that you have. Thank you so much for that. And I want to remind our viewers that health is very, very important. And we've got to wake up to that fact. So thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much, Maria.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, if we want to connect deeper with you and your work, tell us how we would do that.
The probably easiest way is to go to my main website, which is intentionalnetwork.com. My system is called the Invincible Wellness System. So you'll find it through there, intentionalnetwork.com.
Wonderful. So thank you so much again. And remember to connect with Maria and wake up.